Look, I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, I just don't have twitchy enough reflexes to perfect run Mega Mari. Hello, Roll Mithril here once again, getting back to Mag Mammal 2, and it's time for the judge commentary on the first 3 stages of Tier 9. Starting with 18th place, Notencore's Misty Lake. Snow and Pyro. Cerno jokes because it's VLDC 9, lol. I get the 9 reference, but I'm not sure what VLDC means. Wait, memes aside, this is a pretty nice level. I like the difficulty curve and design in general, and I like how you introduce the snowbirds, then the chill blocks, and then combine them both in the final stretch. The boss fight with Cerno is pretty good too, though the icicle attack can be quite tough to dodge sometimes. Also, the Chill Man water ice block spawner things can be a bit buggy sometimes, and accidentally spawn 2 chill blocks, but it's not really a huge issue or anything. Honestly, I feel like more could have been done with the chill block gimmick in general, because I don't really think that the Snow Owl gimmick really changes the gameplay that much, though it is pretty cute. But what is here is pretty solidly built, and it's a good level overall. Choopy Hornet. Nice level you got there. It played really nicely, and overall it felt like a Mega Man stage. Also, I think it was the only stage where I could get all of the Noble Nickels on my first try. I didn't really like the placements of the squid enemies. They destroyed the ice blocks before I could attack them. The level was pretty cool. See what I did there? Until the boss. The boss itself was fine, but you can die after you kill it, which is a big no-no. Angel. I love how this level progresses between different areas. Watching the world around you slowly transform really adds to the experience and flow of the level. While I think the level somewhat suffered in its design under the guidelines set by its aesthetic, it still was a lot of fun to play, and it had some nice ideas which I liked seeing used and reused later on. My main point of criticism with this stage is its rompy nature, and how it feels like it didn't use the elements it introduced to its fullest potential. The difficulty curve in the level is fine, but I found the ending stretch to be less of a challenge than the mid-bosses, though maybe I'm just horrible at fighting them. I also thought that the snow which is dropped onto the stage is harmful due to its size and the way it sticks out, so I often took cover when I first played the stage and thought of it as a clever idea, just to later find out I was role-playing around a non-existent threat. I also managed to get the boss to crash on me, and figured out that dying causes ice cubes to duplicate on the next playthrough, which is rather unfortunate. Either way, lots of fun to play. Gariri. It's a nice little level. The level design is actually surprisingly good, and I like how the snow actually makes precise jumps easy to do. Other than that, some parts of the stage get a bit boring. A fun stage, nothing else to say though. And Aespark. Hi Chill Man, I guess? Oh, he's gone. Never mind. I love the idea of the frozen medieval town. It's a nice unique setting for an ice stage rather than your standard cavern that Mega Man usually uses. A very refreshing change of pace. Theming was on point here. The enemies all worked well and suited the environment. You managed to take into account that the Chill Man blocks don't respawn, and do it in a really clever way. Them popping out of the water is exactly the way to ensure that the player does not get stuck when they fail the platforming test, outside of the Noble Nickel attempts. This is fine. These ice blocks are unfortunately fairly glitchy. I had several of them bug out quite badly, such as creating multiple of them at once, or not at all. I'm not sure what the point of the owl enemies were. I think maybe the trail they leave behind should have been ice rather than snow, as it has no real hindrance to the player. Your highlight was the boss, I think. I'm guessing it's from a franchise I haven't played before rather than an original character. Post-judging comment, Toho. But you've merged Bullet Hell with Mega Man in a frankly brilliant fashion. Once you've learned the pattern, she's very fun to fight. Really solid fun stage here, let down by the glitchy implementation of the new assets. I have to wonder if the ice blocks are one of those things that got changed post-judging, because I don't recall having any problems with those. I do kind of agree that one of the hardest parts really was just the way the squid fights were positioned, just trying to have enough ground to actually fight them on. But overall, this was a really nice stage. I liked this one. Very nicely done. Next up we had 17th place, Lobsterking's Donut Observation Center. Snow and Pyro. My face when I didn't even play X6 and I still get PTSD from this level. Wait, this was an X6 reference? I've never actually played that one. I only played up to X5, so that would be why I didn't get it then. Man, this level is super neat. I really love the interactions you had between the different gimmicks. Fave's setup is definitely the Galaxy Man teleporters plus tile slide. It's really clever and well thought out. I really like the sections with portals and drill man switches too. I like how you just loop around a lot. I also really love the final stretch. The super long Ringman platform plus Galaxy Portal plus Switch setup is really fast paced and clever, and I like it a lot. Probably the only part of the level I'm iffy on is the boss. I think it's a bit too finicky to time yourself just right to avoid getting hit with the Galaxy Man portals. I got hit a lot by just messing up the timing. Plus it was kinda weird that the boss got easier as it went along. I still really like this level though, great job. Also, this level looks and sounds great too. Heart. Droopy Hornet. That was a weird level. For some reason it gave me Brutal Mario vibes. Anyway, I liked the use of the switches in the indoor section, but the outside section at the end was a bit crazy with all of the Ringman platforms. You have a few Galaxy portals lying around to save the player from falling in the pit, which is nice. The boss was kind of annoying though. The two green things on the top were hard to hit unless you used its weakness, Triple Blade, from above. Angel. This level proposes some interesting uses for teleporters, but unfortunately their presence in the level doesn't really shine next to all the other features it throws in. While the level is mostly consistent, it introduces concepts very rapidly, making it hard to use each of them to its fullest potential. I felt like due to the oversaturation of concepts, the level occasionally felt a bit messy, even though it almost never got overwhelming with its enemy placement. There is also one instance in the level where I feel like the teleporters needed an indication as to where they would lead to, the first upward section past spikes. I took a gamble by assuming the teleporters would lead to the other one in the room, which was the case, but wasn't clear at all. The boss of the level to me is its weakest point, mainly due to its small hitboxes and lack of detail on the HP bar. The way in which the targets are offset makes hitting them more precise than it needs to be. Aside from that, it doesn't give the player much of a learning opportunity as they first come into the room, as the arena contains some elements the player can interact with in addition to the boss. I did kind of run afoul of that, I will admit. I was paying more attention to the boss than the fact that I stepped on one of the Ringman platforms. Oops. Gariri. Aside from the annoying boss at the end, this is a very enjoyable level. Some sections were slightly irritating, but the amount of checkpoints makes up for them. I really like how the assets were used. It's really interesting, and it makes the stage fun to play. There's really nothing else for me to say. It's a really good level. Boss could be better, though. And A-Spark. Did you just take one of the most reviled things in Mega Man history, only change its setup, and manage to make it fun? Color me impressed. Okay, again I'm wondering exactly what part you're talking about there. Is that the X6 thing again that I'm just not really familiar with? Your conveyance of everything was excellent. Everything was introduced well, and if any player was unfamiliar with any of these level objects, they won't be now. You also merged them in creatively, and are proof that yes, even the dev kit gimmicks can be used in ways Capcom never thought of. Your checkpoint placement was on point. I did not mind the instant death introduced, because I did not have much level to actually backtrack through, and in some cases no level at all. Good. There are issues, though. I'm not sure what theme this level is going for. It's a bit nonsensical. The two areas of the stage don't make any sense being together. I have no idea what was up with that mini-boss placement, but you probably would have been better off without it, or to have at least modified it to be vaguely a threat. Your first two Noble Nickels were also devoid of challenge, which makes the third one a bit of a puzzler, although I'm nitpicking here. I think in future, work on your theming a bit better, so it isn't all random like this. A few new graphics, spruce up the gimmicks and music, we'd have something pretty close to Capcom level, endgame aside. This was a great stage though, good stuff. Yeah, overall I really liked this stage. I didn't really have much trouble with the boss, I thought it was okay, but yeah, it took a little bit of learning to figure out how to deal with that room. Still, I thought the boss was fine. But if you're going to call your stage Donut Observation Center, it needed more donuts. I still want donuts. And so, last one was 16th place, Renhoek Rad Gravity. Snow and Pyro. Man, Nitro Man is just so janky to control, ha 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 ha. I had a really hard time getting used to controlling him, and it doesn't help that there isn't really much opportunity to experiment, but once you get the hang of him, this level is pretty great. I love how open it is and how all the slopes are everywhere, because it allows you to have a ton of fun just biking around as Nitro Man. However, I don't really think that the design is perfect, because there's a couple of instances where going too fast will slam you into an enemy or spikes. It doesn't help that Nitro Man's jumping can sometimes at random just send you flying someplace you don't want to go to. I feel like it would have controlled better if Nitro Man had a flat speed he drove at, rather than him accelerating to like 6,000 miles per hour. There's some really creative usages of the mechanic though. The second hot dog fight comes to mind, even though it's a bit finicky to actually get the intended way going. And holy crap, the boss is freaking amazing. I basically spent the whole fight with Gravity Man just gawking at how crazy the tech is. My only issue with it, I think, is that I don't think the orbiting physics for your shots make very much sense, and they could have been improved so that you'd have had an easier time hitting Gravity Man from far away. Overall, really fun, but extremely janky. Also, minus 50 points for not giving Kamek his laugh. For not giving Kamek his laugh sound effect. Shaking my head. See? I am learning! I am learning the abbreviations! Jupy Hornet. This level had so much potential. I can tell a lot of effort was put into everything here. Nitro Man, the custom hot dogs, and especially the boss. However, the Nitro Man playable was hard to get used to and felt clunky, so it was actually easier for me to not use him if I didn't have to. The stage was designed so that he wasn't required in most places, besides one or two specific spots. The green hot dog's attacks are nearly impossible to dodge in the small space you're provided. The stage itself was pretty disappointing, but that boss, oh man, that boss. I've seen some really cool bosses in this contest so far, but this boss is definitely one of my favorites out of them all. I have no idea how you took Raphael the Raven from Yoshi's Island and managed to make him work in a Mega Man game, but you did. The graphics and background look great, and the battle functions very well. Awesome job. Angel, this level is so much fun to play, ha ha ha. Just driving around aimlessly at high speeds feels super great, and I love how you can drive up the walls and ceiling. The boss is super impressive, but also quite hard to fully understand due to the way the stage is rotated. I also often found myself in situations where I had to take damage from him, as both a projectile and Gravity Man himself came charging at me at the same time. As for the stage itself, I feel like the first checkpoint is pretty early in. Later I understood that it is so you can return with Nitro Man to get the nickel, even though I got it without him initially. Whoops. You and me both. But returning to save Nitro Man after death just felt like the stage is keeping me from having fun, driving into spikes again. Super cool stage, very expansive, lots of fun, and technically super impressive. Great work. Gariri, I'm seriously impressed by how interesting this level is. All the concepts were absolutely amazing, and the boss fight was very ingenious. However, this level has many problems. One of them is that the level design isn't well adapted for extremely fast movement when you're on Nitro Man, so you'd frequently slam into enemies and spikes you can barely avoid. Additionally, this stage is extremely buggy, with Nitro Man's controls being messed up, as well as many other serious bugs. To summarize, this is a fantastic level, but it has a lot of serious problems that should have been fixed. And A-Spark. This stage is a bit nuts. The primary gimmick for the stage is absurdly cool, not gonna lie, and is a bit of programming wizardry for Game Maker and the engine involved. When this stage is at its best, it's pretty radical, biking about the stage, going up walls a la some weird Mega Man Sonic hybrid, and the boss is just wow. This is probably one of the coolest entry bosses in the contest. Yet, it's all about the execution, and this stage flops a fair bit. I feel one of your biggest problems is that your gimmick introduction for Nitro Man is rather bad. Very bad. This is one of the weirdest gimmicks yet, but instant death is introduced only a screen after he is introduced. This gimmick requires a completely alien control scheme to Mega Man, and requires a Mega Man player to understand Sonic-style physics. A larger variety of warm-up challenges was required. This is not helped by the fact of, I'm sorry to say, the controls for this gimmick are awful. I'm not sure if it's a glitch, but I've ended up with the left arrow making me run right. And the fact up and down is used to move along walls when the Sonic series sticks to just left and right to simplify things. This leads to the gimmick feeling really inconsistent. Getting on and off Nitro Man is also really awkward and unnatural. He cannot be summoned whilst Mega Man is next to a wall. This hinders the later mid-boss challenge. Just as the player is starting to get the groove of the gimmick, you throw a mid-boss at them. A mid-boss that sends out what is basically undodgeable waves of attacks. Again, I have no idea if the intended method is to use Nitro Man to dodge this bout of fireballs or not, but the alternative appears to be sitting there tanking damage, mostly due to the small amount of floor you are allowed. It's really hard to get on Nitro Man during the midst of battle. Then we meet the Robot Master. Gravity Man is awesome. He's difficult but learnable, but he has a habit of combining attacks in ways that even after about 6 fights with him, I have no idea how to dodge. I also got rather sick of the cutscene after a couple of attempts. It was cute the first time, not so much the others. There is a second nickel in the stage. This one is by far and away the most obscure one in the entire contest. I ended up replaying this stage a fair amount and not finding it, so I will drop one hint here. In one of the rooms, the pipes are not solid, and Nitro Man does not apply to finding the room the nickel is in. This is a stage with an amazing concept and some real magic behind the scenes, but it's not exactly fun. It's a good example of ideas requiring the execution to pull out a real winner. Saying that second nickel was the most obscure in the game, I'm honestly wondering if you played that other stage that had the invisible ladder thing going on. If you played this one before that one or not, because that one still strikes me as the most obscure. This one, just kind of looking, I at least had an idea. I wasn't expecting it to be a ladder in that tube, but I at least had an idea of what to look at there. But yeah, this stage, technically, it was very impressive. It is just kind of hindered a bit by the fact that, yeah, the Nitro Man gimmick is kinda awkward. Although, I do find it hilarious that you can just kinda steal him without fighting that mid-boss. I kinda have a feeling that was not intended, but it's hilarious. But yeah, the fact that riding Nitro Man so often, it more just seemed like a fun thing to do rather than really needed for the stage, or even to really get you anywhere for bonus items. It just kind of felt like a lot of lost potential there. It was an amazing idea, and I would love to see it fleshed out a little bit more, but yeah, the stage was unfortunately a bit awkward for him, because yeah, slamming into spikes was a big problem. And yeah, I do also agree, the fight with Gravity Man, the gravity on your shots circling around the planet didn't make a lot of sense, and it's like I said, that fight gets claustrophobic real fast. There are just some setups where I'm really not sure what you were supposed to do to dodge his attacks, but technically, that is an amazing fight. The tech that was put together to make that fight work, it's like I said, I cannot imagine how much work must have gone into that, but it is amazing. But with that, that's where we're going to call it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I shall see you again next time. Until then, fare thee well.